The one thing about the Birkebeiner is that it attracts racers from virtually everywhere, and I mean like as many as 40 states and a dozen foreign countries. In fact, it is the biggest ski event in North America. Birkebeiner is very much like the Citizens Olympics. It's an Olympics for anyone. It's an event that can put them at that pinnacle of success.
Birkie is unlike any other race in that Birkebeiner is an event, and it's just a special feeling about this race. You look, I'm in the second line in the start, and I look back, and there are literally thousands of people behind me, and often they shoot the cannon, and all I can hear is ski clatter, and people whooping and yelling. And a lot of the races I've been to now, you've got real good skiers, great skiers, but you don't have the duffers. To finish the Birkebeiner for them, it's just a major accomplishment. I know when I stamp line, I'm going to finish the Birkebeiner. Okay, I know that I'm probably going to make the 25% club unless I do some incredible, foolish folly. But a lot of people are out there, and it is, they don't know that they can finish it.
The Birkebeiner is listed as 55 kilometers, which translates to 34 miles, and any way you measure it, kilometers, miles, it's a long way to ski in a day. Cross-country skiing, as far as equipment goes and getting set up, is really a simple sport. You got your boot, which fits into a binding, which is as simple as you can get. I think there's basically one moving part in the binding. You put the toe in the binding, clamp it down. You grab your poles, and you're all set to go. Really, you don't have to go in any special area. If you got snow, you can ski. Really.
The move on my part to competitive skiing is, I guess, totally not in keeping with anything I've done in the past, strictly because I've never been a competitive person. I've ever participated in high school athletics or any other type of thing. About, to be honest, 4 years ago this winter, I decided to enter a few citizens races just out of curiosity, because I did enjoy the skiing on a track and skiing fast. Found myself doing well, and then found myself enjoying them, and just gradually made the commitment more and more to competitive skiing and strictly to cross-country skiing. The roller skis, I think, from the point of a cross-country skier, have been the best thing to come along in years, because they allow you to be very, very specific in the muscles you use. Running is a nice exercise because it works your heart and your lungs. Biking for the same reason. But they don't exercise the specific muscles you need for cross-country skiing. That's where roller skiing has been such a dramatic improvement for the cross-country skier in the past couple of years. They allow you to practice the diagonal stride, the double pulling with kick, just everything you want to do on snow. And they at the same time are working the specific muscles, which is very important. That's what it all comes down to. I think one of the real ironies about cross-country skiing, at least as it strikes me, is that you spend so much of your time training for the racing season, doing things other than skiing. You spend all summer running, you're biking, you're roller skiing, and as close as I can be, especially the roller skiing, you're not skiing, you're doing something else. A friend of mine says in July, he said, darn, I wish we could snow tomorrow. And I think that's in the back of every skier's mind. You want to get on snow where you can get really the training. That's what you got to get, because that's what it comes down to, is skiing on snow. So we'll start skiing in November normally around here, and it's just so exciting the first few times you get out, and it's smooth, and it's really brisk and refreshing, and it's really good. Then you start the racing season probably in December, and you start with the smaller races around here, the shorter distance ones, the 15 kilometers, maybe a few 30 kilometers. But all the time, February is going to come in the Birkebeiner. The third week in February, you're going to be racing the Birkies. It's always out there. And the races you're racing are important, but the Birkebeiner, I think that's the big one. That's the most important one. That's the last race in the season. That's the one you remember.
Graduated from Princeton in engineering and Harvard Business School, Masters of Business Administration. Then I went to work for the Heil Company and was married, and I've worked for Heil ever since. Well, I was inveigled into going to the Corriveau, the halfway race last year. Some friends said it was fun, and I decided to try it, and it was fun. It was great experience. And at the end of the race, my friend said, let's next year do the Birkebeiner. And I said, yes. The team that I'm trying to train with in Milwaukee has only had one meeting so far. And we hope the next 2 weekends to get out on the hills, and because the ski race is just 3 weeks away. Pete Mercado is a member of the Holy Hill Ski Club. I'm a member. I met him last year. He's sort of taken me under his wing to try and train me for this race with his group. He's even given me a special ski cap that I'll be wearing in the race. Psychologically, he's been very encouraging. I wish I'd had more time to learn a better technique from him. What I want to do is go faster with the same amount of effort. Basically, it's a long-range goal to train for, and I need something like that in order to get up every morning and do my exercise. Exercise just for its own sake is, to me, a little boring. But if I have an objective, and a training objective, it motivates me a little bit. I do feel nervous when I think about the race because it's a long distance. I'm not sure how I will react, and there is a certain element of hazard that you can fall on some of the steep spots and get rammed from the back. But I look forward to it very much.
Last fall, after running for about a year and a half, I decided that I maybe would like to try to ski the Birkebeiner. I've been cross-country skiing for about the past 6 years. Just decided one year to start skiing and have been a recreational skier for about 6 years. Really nothing more than going out and plodding along some trails, just enjoying the countryside in the winter. I decided that with a certain amount of training, the same way in my running, I could build up my ability and my conditioning, I could probably ski the Birkebeiner. Of course, we've had a very bad winter. There's been very little snow. I had hoped to train for at least 3 months for the race. I haven't had much chance to train. There hasn't been much snow in Madison. I've done some skiing on golf courses. I decided to take some time and go up to Telemark. I found out that I was severely lacking in a lot of training and felt that really to do the total Birkebeiner would be something that would really exhaust me. So upon returning to Madison, I decided that with this short amount of training I had done, I really shouldn't try for the Birkebeiner, that I should go ahead and try for the Corriveau. Preparing for the race, I think the most important thing for me to do is to pace myself. People will be going past me at a much faster pace, and I have a feeling that will encourage me to go probably faster than I should, although I'll concentrate on pacing myself.
Hello.
There's some catalytic thing happening on these mass races, just like the Sioux Sundance. I guess every year you have to have a gathering of the clan to get your soul exhilarated for the next year. And when all these cross-country skiers come, you can feel it already here. You can feel when the Swedes came in tonight. They're just a kind of gathering of the clan feeling here, and that regenerates you and recharges you for the next year. Lifestyle of this country has changed considerably. They want to have active sports, lifetime sports, and we hope that Telemark will provide that for them. This was some kind of a challenge there to put this area back into its heyday of economic stability, and it was always my desire to come back and figure some way out to upgrade the economic situation here.
The influx of people that come through here that are cross-country skiers in comparison or in relation to what used to be downhill skier is just staggering, really.
I'm going to estimate perhaps in excess of $1 million will flow into our area.
Your professionals are all bussed in, they're all brought in, but everybody else brings their own car, and some of them sleep outside, some of them sleep under their cars, in their cars, than any place else they can find.
When you start thinking about 6,000 people are coming into an area, everybody benefits and everybody gets their blood boiling a little bit to see all these people, foreigners coming in.
They were from about 7 fellows from Germany, and our strangest experience with them, we had to warm their beer up.
You know, they're all so pleasant, and they enjoy talking to us.
We began in 1973. At that time, there were somewhere around 68 or 69 skiers in the first race. There were 53 finishers, and from there it grew by leaps and bounds. Race week is when everything really starts to come together.
He'll be 77 on March 9th, and one of his goals is to complete all the World Local races. The only thing that he does as a daily regimen is have a little bit of wine in his coffee.
Yeah, it's the long race.
Just enough so it melts really right over the feet. That's what we need.
As he keeps his arms way out to the side, and that's also propelled. His knees are way down on each one of the turns like that.
I raced a couple other races, but I think this is the one, the big one.
Count in the World Loppet League, and I hope to do well there.
A lot of Europeans over. It's going to be like 10, 15 top skiers out there fighting for the first place.
I've had a lot of troubles in the past with men that don't like to be passed by women.
Spaghetti, sir.
So it's an important race for me.
With the number 2 on the run, Mark Bennett from the United States.
We'll make about 2,500 gallons of Gatorade, and we're putting up about 800 gallons of water.
From New Orleans, came up here with Birkebeiner.
Basically, that's what you want. You want a perfect track.
We have racers in the American Birkebeiner from around 15 foreign nations. Many of these racers are simply what we call the citizen skiers. The skiers like the everyday doctor, dentist, factory worker, just the everyday skier. But there is a certain breed of skier which we call the elite racers. But the elite racers come from far and wide. They range from Austria to Norway, to Sweden, to Finland, to Switzerland, to Germany, to Italy, to France. And these racers are a breed in themselves. They're the group of 15, 20, 50, or 100 skiers that take off from in front of the pack, and before the racers are even out to the 2 or 3 kilometer point, this group of elite racers is already far ahead of the pack.
This year was a clean start. Came off the other side and had good glide, came down the hill in good shape. I spotted people ahead of me. I'm not a good fast mass start man. In other words, when the gun goes, I'm not up there with the leaders right off the bat. So I came down, I picked out guys ahead of me that I knew that I'd skied with this year. I thought, great, they're ahead of me. I'll pace off them. And again, I could see these guys in front of me that I wanted to ski with. I knew I could ski with them. I skied with them all year. And so I wanted to keep in contact with them. their track set, I figured to go straight out, and was in pretty good shape. I kept them there out there for the first 7 kilometers. About the first 7 kilometers are out on the power line. And you got some good uphills and some nice straight-out downhills. And I was skiing well. Downhills has a good glide. And I found myself catching people there, and I had good confidence. I knew I was going to keep in contact, keep in touch with these guys in front of me that I wanted to be with.
Now, one thing that has come about in the Birkebeiner with the numbers of elite skiers that are now competing in the race is that the skiers are racing in packs. The one real key, especially in the Birkebeiner, is to maintain contact or stay close to the skier ahead of you on the uphill. The Birkebeiner is probably about 2/3 uphill and 1/3 downhill, which means that for the champions that are going to be going out there and finishing in 3 hours, they're going to be spending 2 hours on an uphill battle against their competitor. And if they lose time on the uphills, there is not enough downhill time left for them to make up that difference later in the race.
I skied through the first feed station at 7K, grabbed a drink there, and went thundering down the road there. 10K, there's a snaky downhill. You go down, cut to your left, real sharp left corner. Knew it was there, and fell anyhow. Had a good line going into the corner, good speed coming through. Just I don't know what happened. I knew it was there, knew what I had to do to get through it, and didn't do it, fell. At that point, lost contact, lost touch with the group ahead of me that I wanted to stay with. That was, I think, looking back, an important juncture in the race because I had lost touch with the guys, and I was never to pick up again with it. And my strategy basically was to ski steady for the first 25, first 27.5 K through the halfway point, then try to pick people off. It was a good strategy, did basically what I wanted to do, except by 25K the wax was gone. If you're looking at a skier from a viewpoint of just straight technique, you're considering, I think, really 3 probably basic stances, 3 basic strides. The diagonal stride, which is just the most familiar to everybody, where the legs and the arms are working in unison. You'll see that on the flats or uphills. The double pull, in which the skis are held just flat on the snow, and the skier is pushing himself forward by extending forward with his arms, planting the poles, and then compressing over the poles. And then the double pull with a stride, in which you combine the two of them, or you combine a kick with both arms out there in a double pull. And you'll see that on the flats and the downhills up a little bit of hill. Of course, when you're coming downhill, you're in a tuck, and it's pretty much a static position. You're just in a tuck, and you're holding it. There's a lot going on within that, a lot of little balances and stuff like that you got to be aware of. But for all intents and purposes, you aren't doing a heck of a lot when you're in a downhill tuck. One interesting factor about long-distance cross-country skiing as compared to long-distance foot racing, for example, is that you can't hold back and expect that in the last 3 or 4 miles of the race you're going to be able to get a strong kick and go on and beat the competitor, because you are limited with mechanical aspects of just how fast your skis can go against the snow. I think a good example of what cross-country skiing is like, especially coming into that finish area, is the year that Per Knoten won the race with Arndt Harstead, who had won the previous year, finishing second. You can notice as they come across Lake Hayward that the distance between the two, despite all the efforts they could possibly muscle, did not change a bit. They didn't change 1 inch.
I had Arndt Harstead, last year's winner, on my ski all the time. When we got in the flat land, he was still on my skis. And then I went on the other track, trying to get him in front to get some sprint. But he wouldn't. And then I tried harder, and then he was behind. 5 seconds in finish.
After 55 kilometers of extreme strain, they do some extra push as the finish, and we congratulate and cheer them all on.
And here is coming the third. Who is that? He has done 55 kilometers in this race.
It's number 562, Jan Bjorkheim of Norway, who is leading the event at the 35-kilometer mark. Please cheer on Jan Bjorkheim of Norway. Our third finisher. Coming in as number 16 is Matti Kusko of Sweden.
At a certain point late in the race, I realized that because of the wax problems I was having, I wasn't going to place very well in the race, and I wasn't going to be as competitive as I wanted to be. At that point, the pressure's off. 25th, that's... didn't do well. And I finished the race thinking, damn it, I want to come back. I got to do better next year.
The trail sort of wove around in a snake-like fashion for a while. So you could see thousands of people up in front of you going around corners and heading down the trail. It was really a sight to behold. The first food station was around 8 kilometers, and I felt pretty good. I decided not to stop, which probably was a mistake. By the time the next station came along, I was very thirsty. I remember approaching the worst hill, which was posted with a sign, "Caution, steep hill." Well, my heart just sunk when I saw that. And there were, at that point, I think about 6 lanes of tracks, and people were backed up, and 6 people would go down at a time. Usually about half of them fell. I fell on that hill, and I remember falling and looking up the hill to see if anyone was coming down right behind me. I wanted to get out of the way. I barely got my skis out of the way of someone else who was right behind me, and managed to pull myself together and get out of the way and continue on down the track.
Throughout the history of the Birkebeiner, there's been literally thousands and thousands of fascinating people that have come across the finish line. One of them is a 40-year-old gentleman from San Francisco by the name of Harry Cordelis. And it took Harry 2 years to realize his goal, and that was to complete the American Birkebeiner. And it's something that a lot of skiers may take for granted, but Harry's blind.
My goal this year is to finish it. If I have to come in on my hands and knees, I'm going to finish it. I have a sighted guide, and he'll call out a slight turn to the left, a dip, a bump, dig in for an uphill, glide it out going downhill.
I saw a lot of very interesting people in a lot of very interesting outfits. The finish line was, it was good to see. I felt good. I felt a little bit disappointed that the race was over, although I did feel that I just wouldn't have had enough energy to ski another 27.5 kilometers.
And as I remember, there was a girl right at the halfway point who stood out on the trail, and she'd slap each of us as we go by and say, "Good work, now you're halfway." The first half went surprisingly easily for me. I did get confused. You count the kilometers as you go, and I expected I was going to be at 38, and suddenly saw I was only at 36. Boy, that discouraged me.
Oranges, warm water, cold beer. We got it all. Cold beer. All right. Oranges.
I would stop and pick up the Gatorade, and I tried to drink 2 cups of Gatorade at each stop, but I didn't stay long. And my theory is just keep going. I was afraid if I'd stop and rest, I'd find it hard to get started again.
After the halfway point or the 17-mile point of the American Birkebeiner, it becomes absolutely essential for racers to really monitor their own physiological condition throughout that last 17 miles. One of the key problems that racers have, and that the first aid people on the staff look for, is the problem of hypothermia. Basically what hypothermia is the lowering of the core body temperature. And this can come from a number of factors. One is dehydration, another might be the cooling effects of sweating, or possibly just plain running out of energy. And a common syndrome in the Birkebeiner is what racers refer to as hitting the wall, which usually occurs sometime maybe in the last 10 miles of the race, when racers just simply can't go anymore. Another problem that a lot of racers have is lack of muscular coordination when they get down towards the latter part of the race. And this is a symptom that may very well be brought on by things like hypothermia. They'll either collapse or just physically are unable to move adequately anymore. There's no losers in the American Birkebeiner in the Corriveau, but every skier who crosses the finish line receives a medallion. We feel this is extremely important because whether you finish first in the race or whether you finish down in the 4,000th position, if you finish that race, you are indeed a champion and deserve to be honored just as well as the first skier across that line.
My feeling was one of great pleasure to have finished. I felt I could have gone a little further if I'd had to, and I figured that I wanted to do better next year.
I thought to myself, probably I would have a chance to win. Well, I did it, and perhaps I could have failed. But today it was my day.
Partial funding for this program was provided by the Central Educational Network.